Ariel, is it okay if I record a Babylon Talmud now?
Where, in your room?
Yeah, in my room.
I mean, we're just gonna eat now, I think.
It doesn't bother you?
No, it won't bother me at all. I just hope we don't bother you.
Nah, it's alright.
Okay. Well,
Thanks.
still?
Nah, I'm good. Thanks so much. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Zayin of Masechta Shabbis. We're going to continue to break down that brisa that we mentioned yesterday, that we brought up yesterday, which was talking about reshut hayachid, reshut rabim, karmelit, malkum p'tur. So now we're moving on to karmelit. That is basically going to be the focus of our attention today. So now that I've piqued your interest, I will not keep you waiting. Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, about 8 lines into the page, by the 2 dots. Karmelit. So we said back in that brisa that we quoted yesterday. So we quoted basically, it said aval yam uvika ve'istivanis ve'karmelis. Right. So we gave 4 examples of karmelises. One of them was a sea, S-E-A. One of them was the sea. One of them was this like field area. And the other one was this like sitting area in front of the shops. And the 4th one was a karmelis, which is funny. Aren't these all karmelises? What does it mean? So why are we listing karmelis as one of the 4 types of karmelises? So the Gemara answers, Ve'akarmelis atukulu nami lav karmelis nenu. So before the Gemara answers, the Gemara first asks, aren't all of them karmelises? So Kiasar of Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that lo nitzricha ella lekeren zavis asmucha l'reshus harabim. So when it says karmelis, it's coming to teach us about, okay, so let's say you have reshus harabim, right? So you have Main Street, okay? And then off of Main Street, or more like aligning the sides of Main Street, you have like the walls of all these houses that are on Main Street. And let's say one of these walls for the houses is sort of like a little bit more in. So theoretically, if you're walking down Main Street, you can kind of go out of your way and walk into this area and then come back out and continue walking down Main Street, right? So theoretically, like, it's completely accessible via Main Street, but like, nobody's like, if you're walking down Main Street, you have no reason to kind of detour into this like little nook and then come out again, right? So therefore, it's sort of this awkward kind of space that is sort of connected to Main Street, but nobody really walks there. So therefore, it makes it a karmelis because, a reshus harabim is defined by Rashi as a place where, people are walking, and anybody walking down Main Street isn't really going to walk into this nook, okay? So the afagav the zimnin the dachke beirabim va'ayle legava. Even though, let's say, if maybe it was Erev Shabbos or something, it was really crowded, and so sometimes people might go in there. But generally speaking, since it's not comfortable to go into this area, because if you're walking down Main Street, you're just going to walk down Main Street. You're not going to veer off into this nook for no reason. So therefore, it's considered a karmelis. Kiasar of Dimi, Rabbi Yochanan, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Beina amudin nidon kekarmelis. Among the pillars is considered like a karmelis. What is among the pillars? Basically, you would have people in their shops, right? So you'd have people who own shops, but I guess there were also people who would just sell kind of on the street, and there would be pillars in the street, and I guess you would hang your wares on these pillars, and people would buy from these places as well. So that is what's called bein ha'amudim, among these pillars where people would sell their wares. So nidon kekarmelis, it's treated as a karmelis, right? My time, how come? Afagav the darse, but rabim, because even though lots of people go there and walk through there while they're shopping, however, since people who are walking down Main Street to get somewhere aren't gonna like specifically go and walk through these areas, you go there like if you need to go shopping, but it's not like a main thoroughfare. So therefore, it's considered like a karmelis. So that's Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. However, Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Zera says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, that itztaba shelifnei ha'amudin nidon kekarmelis. That it's actually the part that's considered a karmelis is the area in front of these pillars, where the shopkeepers would sit. That is what is the karmelis. So the man amar beina amudim kol sheken itztaba. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that even among the pillars is not considered reshus harabim because it's not like the main thoroughfare, well then certainly the area where the shopkeepers are sitting is not going to be considered reshus harabim. So both of those areas would be considered a karmelis. The man amar itztaba, however, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the area where the shopkeepers sit is what's considered a karmelis, well, that's because it's less accessible. Itztabahu delonicha tashmishte, because it's not really easy to get to. It's not comfortable to sort of get to that area where the shopkeepers sit. Avabena amudim denicha tashmishte, but among the pillars where, even though it might not be the main thoroughfare, it's quite easy to get there and to just go shopping there. So lo, it wouldn't be considered a karmelis. Rather, it would be considered reshus harabim as well. Okay. Lishna achrina. Aval bena amudim de zimnin de darse le rabim kirshus harabim damya. Right? There are those who kind of say the statement of Rav Yehuda in the following way, which is that in the area where the shopkeepers sit, that's considered a karmelis. However, among the pillars where they kind of sell their wares, so since people walk there, right? It's a public area, it's an open area, even though it might not be a thoroughfare, but it's an open area where people do walk. And the zimnin, that's right. The zimnin the darsile rabim kirshus rabim damya. And there are times, maybe if it was like really crowded on the main street or something, and people needed to get somewhere, so they would walk through the pillar area where they're selling stuff. So therefore, it's considered like reshus harabim. Okay, fine. Very good. So it's machlokas essentially between Rav Yehuda and Rabbi Yochanan about are these pillar areas considered like a karmelis or like reshus harabim. Okay, very fancy. Amar Rabba bar Shila Amar Rav Chisda. So it says Rabba bar Shila in the name of Rav Chisda, Levena zkufa kirshus harabim. Okay, so if you have this levena is a brick, and if it's in reshus harabim, so Rashi points out that these bricks were generally 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, and it's lying there in reshus harabim. Okay, now its height, the height of this brick isn't necessarily well defined, and we're saying if you have this brick that's kind of lying there in reshus harabim, its length and width is 3 tefachim, its height is sort of undefined. Vizarak vitach bifanel chayav. And then you throw like some kind of a fig or something sticky or maybe some mud, something that would stick onto the brick, and it gets on its like vertical side, right? On like the face of it, on the vertical side. So we say that you're chayav, right? And Rashi points out, assuming that it's landing on this brick within 3 tefachim of the ground. So in that case, it would be considered part of, as if it landed close to reshus harabim, right? Within 3 tefachim, I guess we would say lavud, and that it's as if it landed on the ground. And you would be chayav for throwing something daled amos in reshus harabim. Al gaba potter, but if it lands on top of the brick, right, on top of it, on the 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim part, so then you would be potter. Abai v'Rava damit Abai v'ushagavoa shlosha. And Abai and Rava both say that, however, in order for you to be potter for when this thing lands on top of this brick, the brick itself would have to be 3 tefachim tall, to lo darse la rabim, because if it's 3 tefachim tall, then people won't step on it. But if it's less than 3 tefachim, where people can step on it, so then it's still considered as if it's part of reshus harabim, and it would be considered as if you threw something daled amos in reshus harabim, and you would be chayav to bring a korban chatas if you do it b'shogeg. Aval hizme v'hege, however, like what if it landed on like these kind of thorny, bushy kind of stuff? Afagav de lo gvihe shlosha. Even though they are not 3 tefachim tall, you would still be potter if it landed on these things, because people wouldn't walk in these, thorn branch kind of things because it's uncomfortable, and therefore it would simply be considered a makom ptur. right? Because a makom ptur is basically any place that's in reshus harabim that is less than 10 tefachim tall and less than daled amos by daled amos. So such as this, like these, like thorny kind of things, they're less than 10 tefachim tall and they're less than daled amos by daled amos. So it would be a makom ptur. And since nobody steps on them, their mom is considered a makom ptur. And zo, and you'd be pater for throwing something onto these thorny kind of things. V'chia barav amar afilu hizme v'hege aval tsoalo. Oh, very exciting. So Chia barav says even these thorny kind of things, if it lands on it, you would still be chayiv, because if you're wearing shoes, you could step on these thorny things. So therefore, it is also considered like reshus harabim. Aval tsoalo, right, but not tsoa, right? We thought that we were done with excrement when we finished Masechta Brachos, but we're not even a week into Shabbis and it's returning. But anyways, if you throw it and it lands on some excrement, so then you would be pater because nobody wants to step on excrement, even if you're wearing shoes, apparently. Rav Ashi Amar afilu tsoa, and Rav Ashi says no, even if it lands on tsoa, you would still be chayiv, because I guess there are some people who like to step in tsoa. Nice. Amar Rabba, says Rabba, Divei Rav Shila. So says Rabba. So said Rabba by the Besmedrash of Rav Shila. Ki asa Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan. That when Rav Dimi came, he said in the name of Rav Yochanan, Ein karmelis pchusa me'arba'a. You cannot have a karmelis that is less than 4 amos by 4 amos. Okay, in order for something to be considered a karmelis, it would have to be at least 4 amos by 4 amos. Okay. From Rav Sheshes v'tofeses ad asara. Rav Sheshes says, and this karmelis kind of holds, it stands, right? It continues being a karmelis until 10 tefachim. And my v'tofeses ad asara. So the question is, what does this mean that it still holds its karmelis status until 10 tefachim? So ilema di'ika mechitza asara hu dahave karmelis fi lo. If you're going to say that in order for something to be considered a karmelis, it would have to have a wall that is 10 tefachim tall. Okay? And Rashi explains that this is, for example, in the situation where, you remember yesterday we talked about that karpaf, right? Those like storage areas outside the city that were bigger than the size of the Mishkan. So even though there's a wall around it, it wouldn't be considered a reshus hayachid because it's too big. So it would be considered a karmelis. And if we're going to explain Rav Sheshes as saying that when we consider that to be a karmelis, it's only if it has a wall that is 10 tefachim tall. But if it doesn't have a wall that's 10 tefachim tall, it wouldn't be considered a karmelis. Well, that can't be. Amar of Gidol, Amar of Chia bar Yosef, Amar Rav. But didn't Rav Gidol say in the name of Rav Chia bar Yosef, in the name of Rav, Bayis she'ein besocho asara. If you have a house, a small house, that inside of it isn't 10 tefachim tall, right? V'keruyo mashlimo la'asara. But its roof makes it 10 tefachim tall. So imagine this. Imagine, you have imagine you take some Legos or something and you build up some wall that's 9 tefachim tall with Legos. Then you take some long piece and you slap it on top of it to serve as the roof. And that roof is 1 tefach tall. So that means that inside this little house, right, it's only the height of the house is only going to be 9 tefachim. But from the outside of the house, if you would count from the floor until the top of the roof, it would be 10 tefachim. So we say, al gago mutter l'taltel b'chulo, that if you're standing on the roof, well then you can carry whatever you want on the roof, because that's going to be a reshus hayachid, right? Because it's 4, assuming that it's 4 amos by 4 amos, right? So this house, we're assuming that the roof is 4 amos by 4 amos, and the walls are 10 tefachim tall, including, right, the roof, basically from the ground until basically your floor, which is the roof, is 10 tefachim. And we say, and since all the walls are 10 tefachim, we say, good asik, that these walls continue up forever. So it's ki'ilu, you're in a reshus of 4 amos by 4 amos that's surrounded by walls. You're in a reshus hayachid, you can carry whatever you want. However, bisocho, inside the house, ein metaltalin bo. You're not allowed to carry in the house ela b'dalet amos, because inside the house is a karmelis. So what do we see? So we see that you can have a karmelis with less than 10 walls that are less than 10 tefachim tall, right? Because this house inside is only 9 tefachim tall, right? And or at least it's less than 10 tefachim tall. And we're saying that you can't carry 4 amos because it's a karmelis. So clearly, Rav Sheshes is not saying that in order for something to be a karmelis, it has to have walls that are 10 tefachim tall. So what does it mean that it maintains its name, its shame of a karmelis until yud? It means the ad yud hu dahavya karmelis lemalam yud tefachim lo have karmelis. Oh, no, what it means is that it's considered a karmelis up until almost like we've been saying for reshut harabim, right? That reshut harabim is only within 10 tefachim of the ground. Above 10 tefachim from the ground, it's not considered like reshut harabim. It's considered like a makom patur. So the same thing by a karmelis, right? If you're standing in a karmelis, right? Let's say you're standing in this karpaf thing, right? This thing outside the city that's bigger than the size of the Mishkan, that's surrounded by walls. So the first 10 tefachim of this area is considered a karmelis. Above 10 tefachim is considered a makom patur. And it's like Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda, Shinana, right? Remember, Shmuel called Rav Yehuda Shinana on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph of Brachos. It means the sharp one. So Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda, Shinana, sharp one. Lo tehave b'milei de Shabbata l'mayla miyud. When it comes to Hilchos Shabbos, there is nothing that is greater than 10 tefachim. And l'may hilchasa, when Shmuel is telling Rav Yehuda that when it comes to Hilchos Shabbos, there's nothing greater than 10 tefachim, what was he referring to? If you're going to tell me that he was telling Rav Yehuda that reshut hayachid, there's no reshut hayachid greater than 10 tefachim, right? Reshut hayachid stops at 10 tefachim, just like reshut harabim stops at 10 tefachim. But didn't Rav Chisda say, no, it's kana b'reshut hayachid, that if a person takes a pole and he sticks it into reshut hayachid, okay, v'zarak, and somebody threw something v'nachal gabav, and it landed on top of this pole, afilu gavoa mea ama chayav. Even if this pole is 100 amos tall, really, really tall, much taller than 10 tefachim, if this ball or whatever he threw on it landed on top of it, chayav, he would be chayav if he threw from reshut harabim and it landed on this really tall pole. Because reshut hayachid goes up forever. So clearly Shmuel wasn't saying to Rav Yehuda that there's no reshut hayachid greater than 10 tefachim, because reshut hayachid goes on forever. Okay, fine. So basically, let's say that Shmuel was telling Rav Yehuda that reshut harabim is not above 10 tefachim. Well, why would he have to tell him that? Masnisani, it's a Mishnah. Ditzanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Zorik dalet amos bakosel. If you throw something 4 amos and it smacks into a wall and it gets stuck on there, so the malam yud tefachim, if it's above 10 tefachim, kizorik ba'avir, it's as if you threw it in the air. And, it didn't land in reshut harabim, so you can be pater. Lematam yud tefachim, but if it's below 10 tefachim, kizorik ba'aretz, it's as if you threw it on the ground and you would be chayiv. So we see from a Mishnah already that reshut harabim only goes until 10 tefachim. So ela karmelis, it must be that Shmuel was telling Rav Yehuda that a karmelis is only 10 tefachim. Above 10 tefachim, it would be a makom patur. In karmelis l'mayla miyud, that there is no karmelis above yud, and that is what Rav Sheshes was saying, that it's only tofeses ad yud. It means that a karmelis is only considered a karmelis up until 10 tefachim from the ground. Above that, it is a makom patur. Ve'ekelu ba rabbanan mikule reshut hayachid umikule reshut harabim. And the rabbanan who created this thing called a karmelis, because midoraisa there's only reshut hayachid and reshut harabim. Everything else, I guess, would be pater. They created this karmelis reshus, but when they created it, they used both the kulas of reshut harabim and reshut hayachid. Mikule reshut hayachid di ika makom arba'a hu dahavya karmelis ve'ilo makom patur be'alma. Who? Right? that they applied the kulas of reshut hayachid, which is that in order for something to be considered reshut hayachid, it has to have an area of 4 amos by 4 amos, right? So let's say you're in reshut harabim, and there's like these walls, somebody constructed these walls, and the area inside the walls are less than daled amos by daled amos, and you throw something into there, you would be pater, because, right, it would be a makom p'tur. You would be pater for throwing it into this area, because in order for it to be considered reshut hayachid, it would have to be 4 amos by 4 amos. So the same thing with a karmelit. In order for something to be considered a karmelit, it has to be at least 4 amos by 4 amos. If it's less than that, it's not considered a karmelit. And mikule reshut harabim ta'ad yud tefachim hu dahavya karmelit l'malam yud tefachim lo havya karmelit, that from the kulas of reshut hayachid, which is from reshut harabim, which is that reshut harabim only goes up to 10 tefachim. Above 10 tefachim, it's not considered reshut harabim. It's makom p'tur. So the same thing by a karmelit. Above 10 tefachim is not considered a karmelit. It's considered a makom p'tur. Gufa. We said earlier. Amar of Gidol, Amar of Chia bar Yosef, Amar Rab. Bayis she'ein tocho yud v'keruyo mashlim al yud. If you have a house that the inside of it is not 10 tefachim from the floor to the ceiling. However, if you would measure the walls from the outside ground until the roof, it would be 10 tefachim, because the roof has a thickness of however many tefachim you need to make it 10. So let's say the inside was 9 tefachim, so the roof was, let's say, had a thickness of 1 tefach. So al gago mutu letaltal bechulo. So on the roof, you can carry on the entire roof because it's considered reshut hayachid. But inside you can only carry for 4 amos because it's considered a karmelit. Amar Abaye v'im chakak bo daled al daled v'shlima liyud muter letaltal bechulo. Abaye says, right, that however, if you would dig out from the floor, right, so let's say the space from the floor to the ceiling was 9 tefachim. So let's say you would dig out in the middle of the floor an area that's 4 amos by 4 amos and 1 tefach deep. So basically from the bottom of that hole to the ceiling would now be 10 tefachim. So then you can carry in the entire house. My time, how come? Havi chore reshut hayachid. V'chore reshut hayachid ki reshut hayachid damu. Because we would treat it as if there were just holes in the walls of reshut hayachid, and that's considered like reshut hayachid. So, if anybody's watching the video, actually, you might be able to tell that right behind me there's a very thick wall, and kilu, where I'm pointing, there's actually like a shelf built into the wall. Okay, and if you're listening to the podcast, then just imagine what I just described. And the point is that you can have shelves built into a wall, and they're just considered like reshut hayachid, kilu. Right? Just like my house is a reshut hayachid, so the shelves built into the walls of my house are also considered reshut hayachid. So therefore, when you dig out this hole into the floor of this house to make it from the floor to the ceiling 10 tefachim, so it's considered that the walls of this little hole that you built are the walls of the house, and then all this other area on the side outside the hole are just considered sort of shelves built into this wall, and therefore it's all considered reshut hayachid, and you can carry the whole thing. The Idmar, as we learned by Amoraim, chore reshut hayachid reshut hayachid damu, chore reshut harabim, Abaye omer reshut harabim damu, Rav omer lav reshut harabim damu. That when it comes to the like shelves or holes built in the walls of a reshut hayachid, they're considered like reshut hayachid. However, what if you're in reshut harabim? Right, let's say you're on Main Street, and there's all these, the walls of all the houses that line Main Street, and in the walls are holes. So Abaye says those holes have the same status of reshut harabim. Rava says no, they don't have a status of reshut harabim, and assuming that they're within 10 tefachim of the ground. So if it's less than 4 amos by 4 amos, it would be a makom p'tur. If it's 4 amos by 4 amos, it would be a karmelit. Okay, fine. Now Amrle Rava Abaye. So Rava says to Abaye, L'didach, according to you, Abaye, the Amar Tchoi reshut harabim ki reshut harabim damu. That you say that the walls of reshut harabim are considered like reshut harabim. So my shna meha. So then, why is this any different than that Dechi Amar Rav Dimi, Dechi Asa Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan? That when Rav Dimi came, he said the name of Rav Yochanan. Lo nitzrucha lekeren zavis asmucha reshut harabim. That when we said at the beginning of the page today, that when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bava, he said the name of Rav Yochanan, that when we say that a karmelit is a kind of karmelit, it's talking about when you have in reshut harabim like some like little nook in the reshut harabim, and that nook, people can walk in there, but they don't usually walk in there, and therefore it's considered a karmelit. So now, according to you, Abaye, that holes in the wall of the walls of reshut harabim are considered like reshut harabim, well then why wouldn't this nook also be considered like a reshut harabim? Right? That nook should be like chole reshut harabim, and should be, according to you, Abaye, it should be considered reshut harabim. So Abaye answers, Hacham lo nicha tashmishte, acha nicha tashmishte. Right, over there, by this nook, it's really not comfortable to use it. Why would anybody want to go into this nook in reshut harabim if they're walking down the street? Why would anybody detour to go into this nook? But over here, maybe they're eating a falafel, and they're not makbid on throwing things out, so they just chuck it into this little nook. It's taka very convenient. So therefore, that's why it's considered reshut harabim. Tanan, we ask another kasha on Abaye. We have a Mishnah that says, Azorik dalad amos bakotel lemala miyud kizorik ba'avir, that if you throw epis and onto a wall, if it's above 10 tefachim, so then it's considered like you just threw it in the air and it didn't land in reshut harabim, and therefore you'd be patur it wouldn't be considered like ha'avara something dalad amos in reshut harabim. Rather, it's above 10 tefachim, so it's considered like it's in a makom patur. Lemata miyud tefachim, but if it's below 10 tefachim, kizorik ba'aretz. So if it lands on the wall less than 10 tefachim, so then it's ki'ilu, it landed on the ground, and you would be chayiv for ha'avara dalad amos b'reshut harabim. Ve'avinam, we ask the question, my kizorik ba'aretz, what does it mean that if you throw it and it lands within 10 tefachim of the ground, it's ki'ilu, it landed on the floor? Ve'halo nach, what do you mean? It didn't land on the wall, right? If you throw something against a wall, it's just going to bounce right back. So if you're standing 4 amos away from the wall and you throw something against the wall, it's just going to bounce right back, and it's not going to be 4 amos away. From Rabbi Yochanan b'dveila shmeina shanu. So Rabbi Yochanan says that we're talking about like a very juicy, fatty, sticky fig, and therefore it got stuck on the wall. That's what it's talking about. And now, v'sakadaitech chore reshut harabim k'reshut harabim damu. And Abaye, if you're correct that the holes in the wall of reshut harabim are like reshut harabim, well then lama le'ukma b'dveila shmeina. Then why did we have to say that it's talking about a fig, a sticky fig that got stuck on the wall? Lukma b'tzror v'chefetz udenach b'chor. Just say that it's talking about a regular thing that you threw, a pebble, some kind of object, and it just went into one of the holes in the wall. And that's why you're going to be chayav for throwing dalad amos reshut harabim, because it landed within 10 tefachim of the ground in reshut harabim, and it landed in one of the holes in the wall, which are considered like reshut harabim. So zimnin mishanila. So sometimes Abaye would give the following answer, which is shani tzura v'chefetz dimehader v'asi. That even if there are holes in the wall, sometimes it would still, if you throw like a pebble, even if it goes into a hole, it could still bounce out again and land on the floor. So if the only way that it can get stuck on the wall is really if you throw something sticky that gets stuck there. And v'zimnim mishanila, sometimes he would give the following answer, which is bikotel deleis be chor, that it's talking about a wall that didn't have any holes in it. Mimai, why does Abaye assume that it's talking about a wall that doesn't have any holes in it? Midiktani Reisha, from the fact that the Reisha said Zarek lemala miyud tefachim kizarik ba'avir. And the fact that the Reisha said that if he throws it and it lands more than 10 tefachim, it's as if he throws it in the air. And if it's talking about a wall that has holes in it, well then amai kizarik ba'avir hanach bechor. Well then, why when it lands 10 tefachim above 10 tefachim, it's ki'ilu, it's just in the air in a makom patur? Well, if there were holes in the wall, right, then it would have landed in one of the holes. And if it landed in one of the holes, then it would be considered a reshut hayachid. And maybe you're thinking, like, wait, why would it be considered a reshut hayachid? Maybe the hole isn't 4 amos by 4 amos. And if you're going to say, yeah, well, that hole doesn't have 4 amos by 4 amos, so it's not a reshut hayachid, and therefore it's just a makom patur. Ve'amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Chia, But Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Rabbi Chia, which is interesting because Rabbi Yehuda often quotes Rav, but Rav's uncle was Rabbi Chia. So it's interesting that Rabbi Yehuda is quoting Rav's uncle, Rabbi Chia. Zarak lemala miyud tfachim v'halcha v'nacha b'chor, that if you throw something above 10 tfachim and it lands in a hole above 10 tfachim in the wall, right, b'chor kolshu, even if it's a tiny little hole, banu l'machlokas Rabbi Meir v'Rabbanan. So that's exactly the machlokas Rabbi Meir v'Rabbanan, which is Rabbi Meir savar chokikin lahashlim, Rabbanan savar ein chokikin lahashlim. Rabbi Meir says that whenever you can, if you, let's say you have this hole that is just, it's very small, but theoretically you can continue digging out the hole and it would be 4 amos by 4 amos. So then we would treat it as if you did that, as if you opened up the hole and made it 4 amos by 4 amos, in which case it would be considered a reshut hayachid, right? Because it's 10 tefachim off the ground, so it's got walls of 10 tefachim. The space inside is 4 amos by 4 amos. That's a reshut hayachid. So even though it's only a chor kolshu, a very small hole, we consider it as if you built it out, as if you dug it out, and it's actually reshut hayachid. The Rabbanan argue, however, we say that Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, right? I feel like we kind of randomly use this theory that Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, but Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Therefore, we're assuming that this Mishnah that says that if you threw something and it landed above 10 tefachim is Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir would say that if there was a hole in the wall and it landed in the hole, we would consider it as if it's a reshut hayachid. So why would it be pati? He would be chayav, right? So elav shmamina because of the delays bechor shmamina rather must be talking about a wall that doesn't have any holes in it, and that is why Rabbi Yochanan. That's why we had to answer it that it's talking about, quoting Rabbi Yochanan, that it's talking about a fatty, sticky fig that got stuck on the wall because there were no holes. But Abaye would still maintain that if there were holes in the wall, they would be considered like reshus harab. Okay, very interesting. All right, so today what did we learn about? We basically learned about karmelises and stuff like that. What's considered a karmelis? That above, right? Karmelis as the kulas of reshus hayachid and the kulas of reshus harabim, and above 10 tefachim would be considered a makom p'tur. And cool. I hope you all enjoy, and we'll pick it up from here tomorrow. Peace out.